In the journey of life, there are crossroads we must all face, where the past and present meet, and where identity seeks balance with expectation. One such crossroad lies in the evolving nature of the modern woman, standing against the ancient echoes of tradition. This is not a conflict, but a reflection. A reflection of what society has shaped and of what men silently observe. Balance is not found in extremes, but in conscious integration. This is a truth that echoes throughout every meaningful relationship, every cultural evolution, and every personal transformation. The human tendency is to swing like a pendulum from one extreme to the other, rejecting the old in favor of the new, or clinging tightly to the past out of fear of change. But neither extreme leads to true balance. What leads to balance is the conscious effort to understand both sides, to hold space for both tradition and modernity without letting either dominate entirely. In the context of modern women and traditional values, the conversation becomes emotionally charged because it touches on identity, expectations, and deeply rooted societal norms. Yet to find wisdom in this dialogue, one must rise above judgment and truly listen. The modern woman stands at a complex intersection of roles, freedoms, and pressures. She is educated, self-sufficient, expressive, and driven. These are not just signs of progress, they are the fruits of generations of struggle, awareness, and evolution. But at the same time, tradition whispers with its own authority, reminding her of values like humility, sacrifice, femininity, family orientation, and emotional grounding. These values are not obsolete, though they may appear restrictive to some. They carry within them the weight of cultural wisdom that shaped communities for centuries. The mistake arises when one rejects either side completely. When modern women are taught to despise tradition, they risk losing touch with qualities that create depth and emotional richness. When they are forced to obey outdated roles blindly, they lose their voice and their sense of agency. Balance demands something more difficult than rebellion or obedience. It demands discernment. It asks, what part of tradition serves your growth? What part of modernity makes you feel aligned with your inner truth? Without that clarity, women may find themselves performing identities rather than living truthfully. They may feel free yet disconnected, powerful yet anxious, independent yet yearning for something more rooted. The answer is not in choosing one over the other, but in integrating both through conscious awareness. Men, on the other side of this dynamic, are also undergoing a silent transformation. The expectations they once held, expectations often passed down by their fathers and communities, are now being questioned. In traditional frameworks, a woman's worth was often measured by her obedience, her service to family, her modesty, and her silence. These expectations were often imposed without understanding or empathy. But in today's world, men are learning to value more than just appearance or compliance. They are beginning to look for emotional intelligence, spiritual depth, inner confidence, and mutual respect. However, this shift also comes with confusion. What does it mean to be a man in a world where roles are constantly shifting? What does it mean to admire a strong, independent woman while also desiring softness, connection, and nurturing? When a man sees a woman who has both strength and softness, who is modern in vision yet traditional in her grounding, something deep is awakened in him. He does not want a woman lost in rebellion, nor one buried in submission. He wants a woman who knows who she is. And the same goes for the woman. She wants a man who is neither domineering nor passive, but one who is clear, rooted, and emotionally present. Integration is not the fusion of contradictions, but the elevation of their essence. In this context, balance becomes a spiritual quality, not just a social one. It is an energy you carry in how you walk, how you speak, how you hold your identity. It shows in how a woman dresses with both grace and confidence, how she speaks with both assertiveness and compassion, how she nurtures while pursuing her dreams. It is a silent elegance that needs no approval, only presence. Balance also means respecting the journey of others. Not all women will choose the same path, and not all men will think the same way. One's choices should not be made out of fear of judgment or desire for validation, but from a deep sense of alignment with inner truth. For that to happen, stillness is needed, time is needed, reflection is needed. Modern society moves fast. It promotes loud voices, instant opinions, polarized debates. But integration cannot happen in haste. It needs silence. It needs pause. It needs the courage to ask, what do I truly value? Not because someone told me, but because I felt it in my bones. In the end, the path of the modern woman is not to abandon tradition, nor to be enslaved by it. It is to extract the wisdom from it and walk forward with clarity. That clarity becomes her power. That power becomes her peace. And that peace becomes her gift to herself, to her partner, and to the world. Men, too, must learn to support this journey, not by clinging to outdated control, but by embodying strength that protects, not oppresses. A man who is truly strong does not fear a woman's independence. He welcomes it. He supports her evolution while remaining grounded in his own values. He understands that the integration of old and new is not just a woman's task. It is his too. So the question remains, can we hold two truths at once? Can we respect the past while building the future? Can we evolve without forgetting who we are? That is the challenge. That is the opportunity. And that is where real balance is born. Not from choosing sides, but from consciously integrating the wisdom of both worlds. True respect between genders grows from understanding, not domination. At the root of every meaningful human connection lies the ability to see the other person not as a role or a function, but as a complete being, full of thoughts, emotions, history, and intention. In the relationship between men and women, respect has often been reduced to surface-level behavior, to politeness, to tradition, or to fear. But genuine respect does not arise from these temporary performances. It arises from a deep-rooted understanding of each other's nature, values, and struggles. When we begin to truly understand each other, we no longer feel the need to control, to dominate, or to assert power. We begin to listen differently. We begin to speak more carefully. We begin to support rather than suppress. In the past, many societies placed men in dominant positions, not always out of malice, but often out of inherited structures. These structures taught men that control equaled strength and that leadership required obedience from women. Women, in turn, were often conditioned to believe that their value came from serving others, maintaining silence, and avoiding confrontation. These patterns, even if softened today, still linger in subtle expectations. But respect built on fear, silence, or obligation is not real respect. It is compliance. It is survival. It does not nurture love. It creates resentment. And no partnership, no society can thrive when one side is suppressed to elevate the other. Understanding requires effort. It is not passive. It means being willing to step into someone else's experience. For men, this means looking beyond what a woman presents on the surface. It means asking what pressures she faces, what insecurities she battles, what dreams she holds but has been told to quiet down. It means recognizing the mental load many women carry silently the emotional intelligence they bring into relationships, the empathy that is often mistaken for weakness. For women, it means not assuming that every man is a product of toxic patriarchy. It means seeing that many men are silently struggling with expectations they can't voice, that they are told to be strong, but not how to process pain, that they are discouraged from vulnerability yet judged for lacking emotion. Respect grows when both sides begin to understand not just how the other behaves, but why they behave that way. And this understanding often begins with conversation. Open, non-defensive, and sincere. When a man tells a woman what he values in a partner, not as a demand, but as a hope, and she listens not to argue, but to understand, a bridge is built. When a woman shares her pain, her fatigue, her need to be seen beyond her appearance or her achievements, and the man does not dismiss or minimize it, that is where respect begins to grow roots. Respect is about holding space for each other's truth, not trying to reshape the other into what feels comfortable. In today's evolving world, where gender roles are being questioned, redefined, and challenged, it is easy to fall into the trap of competition rather than connection. Some men feel attacked by the rise of female empowerment, interpreting it as a loss of male authority. Some women, in response to historical oppression, believe respect can only be earned through defiance or distance. But true respect does not need either gender to shrink. It allows both to expand. It does not weaken a man to value a woman's independence. It does not diminish a woman to honor a man's leadership when it comes from a place of care, not control. Respect is not about reversing roles. It's about rising together. This kind of understanding-based respect takes time and emotional maturity. It involves letting go of defensiveness. It requires being comfortable with discomfort because some truths are hard to hear. For instance, when a woman says she feels unsafe expressing herself fully in front of a man because she fears being judged or ridiculed, it can be painful for the man to hear. But if he listens, truly listens, without trying to defend himself, that moment becomes a seed of respect. Similarly, when a man expresses that he feels pressure to provide, to protect, and to constantly appear strong, even when he is breaking inside, it challenges the narrative that men are emotionally unavailable by choice. It invites compassion rather than criticism. Respect based on understanding is also reflected in actions. It shows in how we speak to each other in private and in public. It shows in how we listen, whether we listen to respond or to understand. It shows in how we disagree, not with the intention to win, but with the intention to grow closer. When a man respects a woman, he doesn't belittle her opinions or reduce her to her looks. He doesn't see her as competition or decoration. He sees her as a force, as a partner, as a mirror to his own soul. When a woman respects a man, she doesn't mock his vulnerability or dismiss his silence. She doesn't measure his worth by his income or his titles. She sees his struggle, his effort, his presence. This level of understanding also means accepting differences. Men and women are not the same, not biologically, emotionally, or socially. But difference does not mean inequality. It means complementarity. Just as yin and yang are different energies that create harmony, when balanced, so too can the masculine and feminine energies create deep connection when there is mutual respect. The man does not need to dominate to feel worthy, and the woman does not need to fight to feel respected. They can both stand in their truth, aware of their strengths, and open to each other's wisdom. True respect does not come from books, from slogans, or from law. It comes from experience, from mistakes, from reflection. It comes from the willingness to unlearn what society has taught us about each other. It grows in the space between words. In the tone, the silence, the patience. And once this kind of respect is established, everything else changes. Love deepens. Trust becomes natural. Peace becomes possible. Because respect is not just about how we treat each other. It's about how we see each other. And when we finally see each other clearly, domination fades away. All that remains is understanding. And from that understanding, we build something stronger than tradition, stronger than rebellion. We build connection. Modern freedom must be anchored in timeless principles. Freedom, in its purest form, is not the absence of limits, but the presence of self-awareness. When people pursue freedom without understanding, it quickly turns into chaos, self-destruction, or confusion. This is especially true in today's world, where the modern woman is encouraged to be everything at once. Ambitious, independent, assertive, desirable, successful, emotionally intelligent, and socially admired. She is given the space to create her own path, to reject what no longer serves her, and to rise above limitations that bound generations before her. But with this newfound freedom comes a responsibility that is often overlooking, the responsibility to ground that freedom in values that do not change with trends. The world today moves fast. Social media feeds people ideas of empowerment that are often shallow, performative, or disconnected from real meaning. Modern freedom, when driven by ego or comparison, leads many to believe that detachment, rebellion, or emotional numbness are signs of strength. Yet, the strongest people are not those who abandon all structure, but those who walk freely within the structure they consciously choose. For the modern woman, this means understanding that real power is not in rejecting every traditional value, but in knowing which ones still serve her growth, her peace, and her identity. Timeless principles such as compassion, humility, discipline, patience, loyalty, and emotional intelligence are not outdated. They are foundations. They existed before any societal structure and will continue to exist long after trends pass. A woman who values her freedom but forgets these principles may find herself feeling lost, anxious, or disconnected. She may chase relationships that lack depth, pursue success that brings no fulfillment, or adopt attitudes that isolate rather than connect. But a woman who grounds herself in these eternal truths walks differently. Her freedom does not make her arrogant. It makes her compassionate. Her independence does not make her hard. It makes her discerning. Her strength does not make her intimidating. It makes her magnetic. When freedom is not anchored, it often leads to confusion in relationships. Many men today struggle to understand how to relate to modern women. They see strength but feel fear. They see confidence but sense walls. It's not because men dislike freedom. It's because freedom, when detached from softness and principles, can feel cold and untouchable. The modern woman who is grounded in values becomes easier to understand, easier to trust, and easier to connect with. Not because she is less powerful, but because her power is integrated with wisdom. She does not seek attention through rebellion. She commands presence through her centeredness. Timeless principles also provide guidance in times of crisis. When everything changes, when roles shift, when relationships break, and when external validation disappears, it is these inner principles that help a woman stay grounded. Modern freedom offers many choices, but too many choices without clarity can become a burden. A woman who knows her values can filter through the noise. She can choose relationships, careers, and lifestyles that reflect her essence, not just her ambition. She can speak from her heart without fear because her heart is aligned with values that transcend time. Anchoring freedom also means recognizing that some traditions are not chains. They are roots. Not every cultural value is oppressive. Some are deeply sacred and protective. The modern woman does not need to adopt blind obedience, but she can learn to differentiate between control and wisdom. For example, the value of modesty is often misunderstood. It is not always about clothing, it is about intention. Modesty in behavior, in speech, and relationships reflects inner dignity. Similarly, the principle of family is not about sacrificing dreams. It's about understanding the importance of connection, of legacy, of belonging. When freedom forgets these things, it becomes self-centered and lonely. In relationships, anchoring freedom in values creates deeper intimacy. A woman who knows who she is does not need to test or manipulate a man to feel powerful. She respects his journey just as she expects her own to be respected. She does not view submission as weakness or dominance as strength. She understands that love is a space of mutual giving, not a power struggle. She expresses herself clearly, but with kindness. She sets boundaries not to punish, but to protect. These are not tactics. They are reflections of timeless principles in action. A man who encounters such a woman feels safe to express his own depth. He does not feel the need to pretend or to dominate. He sees in her not just beauty or intelligence, but character. That character, built on timeless principles, draws him in more than appearance or status ever could. He sees that her freedom is not reckless. It is rooted. It does not blow in the wind. It stands like a tree, strong, graceful, flexible, but unshakable. Modern freedom without principles also weakens leadership. A woman in a position of influence, whether at home, at work, or in society, must lead not just with intelligence but with values. The world is full of voices, but few carry the weight of truth. The woman who grounds herself in timeless values speaks differently. People listen not just to her words, but to her energy. She leads by example. She does not preach empowerment while living in contradiction. Her actions match her words because her freedom is guided by something bigger than herself. Freedom anchored in principles also heals generational wounds. Many women carry pain from the past. Pain of suppression, silence, and control. But healing does not come through revenge. It comes through transformation. When a woman reclaims her freedom with grace, when she honors her elders without repeating their limitations, when she chooses strength without losing compassion, she heals not just herself, but the generations before and after her. Her life becomes a bridge between the past and the future, a place where both can exist in harmony. Ultimately, freedom without values is just movement without direction. It is noise without meaning. But freedom that rises from values becomes a force of light. It does not break things. It builds. It does not destroy. It transforms. The modern woman is not defined by how far she runs from tradition, but by how deeply she understands herself within all the noise of modernity. Her choices reflect not rebellion, but wisdom. Her independence reflects not isolation, but inner peace, and her presence reflects not who she is today, but who she chooses to become, grounded, whole, and free. What men truly seek is not perfection, but inner harmony in a woman. The idea that men are looking for flawless beauty, constant submission, or societal checkboxes is not only shallow, it is false. When a man matures, when he becomes more connected to his own heart and values, his desires shift away from external ideals and move toward internal resonance. He is no longer interested in how perfectly a woman fits an image, but how peacefully she carries herself. He becomes more sensitive to energy than appearance, more drawn to emotional balance than social performance. Inner harmony is not something you can fake. It is felt in how a woman sits with herself, in how she responds to life's challenges, in how she navigates both silence and storm. Men, just like women, are drawn to what makes them feel safe and seen. In a world that is constantly busy, full of noise and expectation, a woman who lives with internal calm becomes a refuge. This harmony is not about being passive, quiet, or overly agreeable. It is about having a clear connection to oneself. It is about a woman who knows her values and honors them, who does not collapse under pressure or shift her identity for approval. She moves with intention, speaks with presence, and responds with depth. That steadiness, that consistency, that grounded energy is what draws a mature man in. Not because she never gets emotional, but because she knows how to process those emotions with awareness. In relationships, women are often taught to focus on what they can offer externally. Beauty, career success, household management, sexual appeal. These are all emphasized as traits of a desirable partner. But those things, while not irrelevant, are not what create lasting connection. A man may admire a woman's appearance, but he will stay for her spirit. He may be impressed by her accomplishments, but he will commit to her peace. Inner harmony is what allows love to grow roots. It creates emotional safety, not just excitement. It invites trust, not just attraction. It brings presence, not just passion. A woman with inner harmony knows herself well enough to know what she needs. But she also knows how to listen. She doesn't try to change a man through control, nor does she lose herself trying to please him. She communicates with honesty, not hostility. She gives space, not silence. She offers care, not caretaking that drains her. Her stability invites emotional maturity in a man. It calls him forward into being more present, more responsible, more himself. He feels respected not because she agrees with everything, but because she disagrees with grace and clarity. That kind of emotional environment nourishes the masculine heart in ways few other things can. Perfection is an illusion, and many women suffer deeply trying to chase it. Trying to look the right way, speak the right way, perform roles perfectly, hide their fears, or manage everything with no space for rest. But the truth is, no man is asking for that. What he truly seeks, if he is emotionally awake, is to meet a woman who is whole within herself. This wholeness does not mean she has no pain or confusion. It means she knows how to sit with them. She does not rush to escape herself. She does not project her wounds onto others. She owns her healing. She walks through life with her head high, not out of pride, but out of self-trust. This kind of harmony also changes how a woman sets boundaries. She does not need to fight for respect. Her energy demands it without force. She does not allow disrespect, not because she is angry, but because she is clear. She does not play games because she values honesty over manipulation. She understands that love cannot be forced or tricked. It must be chosen freely. When a man feels this calm clarity, he either rises to meet it or he walks away, and she is at peace either way, because her worth is not defined by who stays or who leaves. It is rooted in her relationship with herself. Inner harmony affects everything. It affects how a woman holds space in a conversation. It affects how she handles jealousy, criticism, uncertainty, and stress. A woman who is at peace with herself does not need constant reassurance. She appreciates validation, but does not depend on it. She can be soft without being weak, assertive without being harsh. She brings balance wherever she goes. not because she tries to control the environment, but because she has already created that environment within herself. Men who are emotionally connected often say the same thing after being in a deep relationship, that it wasn't the woman's appearance, talents, or even shared goals that made the relationship powerful. It was the way she made them feel. And most of the time, that feeling came from her centeredness. When a woman is grounded, she becomes intuitive. She senses what is unsaid. She can comfort without words. She can hold her space even when others are in chaos. This makes her not just a partner, but a powerful presence. Inner harmony also makes intimacy deeper. It removes the need for performance. It allows for real connection. Physical attraction can fade or fluctuate, but emotional resonance grows stronger with time. A man who finds peace in a woman's presence returns not out of habit, but out of love. He feels understood. He feels free to be vulnerable, and he begins to associate her presence with safety, which is one of the most profound forms of emotional attachment. This harmony must be cultivated. It doesn't come automatically. It requires solitude, reflection, emotional discipline, and often healing from the past. It requires letting go of perfectionism, comparison, and fear. It is the result of choosing peace over drama, presence over anxiety, and truth over image. And while the world may reward the loud, the bold, or the glamorous, men who seek something real look for the quiet strength that only inner harmony brings. What men seek is often misunderstood because what they say and what they feel can be different. Society teaches men to praise beauty, status, or charm, but when they sit alone, when they reflect deeply, what they remember most is how a woman made them feel about themselves. Did she bring chaos or calm? Did she spark growth or fear? Did she accept their truth or demand a mask? And in that reflection, the woman who is truly remembered is not the most flawless, but the most peaceful. So the journey is not toward perfection. It is toward presence, toward becoming so whole within that love becomes a gift, not a need. That connection becomes sacred, not transactional. That relationships become reflections of inner clarity, not escape from inner confusion. This is what a mature man truly seeks. And this is what creates lasting love. Tradition is not a prison. It is a mirror. How we use it defines us. In today's rapidly changing world, where identities, roles, and values are continuously evolving, tradition often gets misinterpreted as something that confines or restricts. It is seen by many as outdated, rigid, or incompatible with modern lifestyles. But tradition in its purest form is not about force or limitation. It is a reflection, a mirror held up by generations past, showing us where we came from, what we valued, how we survived, and how we formed meaning. Like any mirror, it does not tell us what to do. It shows us what has been. What we choose to see in that reflection and how we respond to it shapes who we become. For the modern woman, navigating tradition is both a challenge and an opportunity. On one hand, she must step into spaces her grandmothers were not allowed to enter. She must speak where once she was expected to remain silent. She must lead, innovate, and decide her own destiny. On the other hand, she carries within her blood and memory the teachings, beliefs, and cultural frameworks that gave her people their strength. Discarding all tradition in the name of modernity often leads to rootlessness, to a lack of identity and continuity. Yet blindly clinging to tradition without thought or relevance results in stagnation and suppression. Therefore, the wisdom lies not in rejection or obedience, but in discernment. When we look at tradition as a mirror, we gain the ability to reflect on what parts of it still hold value and what parts have served their time. Not all traditions are oppressive. Some hold deep spiritual meaning, community bonding, and emotional wisdom. Others are indeed born of inequality, fear, or control, and must be challenged. But the decision to embrace or let go of a tradition should come from understanding, not rebellion. It should be a conscious act rooted in self-awareness, not one driven by peer pressure or surface-level modern narratives. Men, too, have a relationship with tradition that shapes how they view women, relationships, and leadership. Many men grew up watching their mothers, grandmothers, or sisters live by certain codes. These codes, how to behave, how to dress, how to serve, how to speak, were often accepted as truths. And as boys grow into men, they carry some of those expectations, even subconsciously. But modern reality forces them to reconcile with the fact that women are no longer bound to the same roles. For some, this shift feels like a threat. For others, it becomes a reason to evolve. When men choose to look into the mirror of tradition, not with fear, but with curiosity, they too can break patterns that no longer serve them. They can keep what honors their integrity and release what damages their relationships. The true value of tradition is its ability to offer grounding. It gives people a sense of continuity, a link to ancestors, a feeling of belonging. It holds sacred rituals, family values, and ethical teachings that help shape character. A woman who honors her traditions from a place of choice, not compulsion, walks with grace. She does not see her culture as a burden, but as a backdrop to her own narrative. She reinterprets customs in ways that reflect her individuality while respecting her lineage. This act of reinterpretation is powerful. It does not weaken tradition. It renews it. In relationships, the way tradition is handled can either create harmony or conflict. A woman who carries traditional values may prioritize loyalty, nurturing, and emotional depth. These are not signs of weakness, but of rooted strength. A man who recognizes the value in this will not try to change her, but will appreciate the qualities that such a background has cultivated. At the same time, if he expects her to follow tradition without dialogue, without adjustment, he is looking for obedience, not partnership. Healthy relationships thrive when both partners are allowed to question and reconstruct the values they inherit. Tradition also plays a role in how we view gender roles, marriage, parenting, and community. For many women, traditional values have taught patience, respect for elders, sacrifice, and faith. But when these values are taught without balance, they lead to burnout, silence, and loss of self. For tradition to remain meaningful, it must be practiced with consciousness. A woman who sacrifices everything for others without caring for herself is not upholding tradition. She is harming herself under its name. Likewise, a man who expects to be served without serving in return is not leading. He is misusing tradition as a shield for entitlement. To truly use tradition as a mirror, we must ask questions. What did this value mean when it was created? What was its purpose? Does it still serve that purpose today? Can it be practiced in a way that enhances love, dignity, and mutual respect? If not, can it be let go without guilt? These questions open the door for a new way of living, one that honors the past without being ruled by it. Women today are not just daughters of tradition, they are also mothers of the future. Every choice they make, every value they live by, becomes part of what the next generation will inherit. When a woman integrates traditional values with modern wisdom, she becomes a bridge between worlds. She models to younger girls that you don't have to choose between being strong and being soft, between being independent and being family-oriented. You can be both, not by pleasing everyone, but by listening deeply to what aligns with your truth. There is also a deeper, almost spiritual dimension to tradition when viewed as a mirror. It asks us to slow down, to reflect, to honor cycles, to seek meaning beyond achievement. In a world obsessed with speed and visibility, tradition offers rituals, stillness, and depth. Whether through cultural practices, ancestral teachings, or spiritual beliefs, tradition connects us to something larger than ourselves. A woman who walks with this awareness moves with a different kind of strength, a strength that does not shout but resonates. In summary, tradition is only a prison when it is imposed without choice. But when it is approached with understanding, it becomes a mirror. It helps us see where we come from, who we are becoming, and what we truly value. A modern woman does not need to erase her past to walk into the future. She only needs the courage to choose wisely, to honor what uplifts her, and to let go of what dims her light. A man who understands this becomes not her judge, but her ally. Together, they do not repeat old patterns. They create new paths, rooted in truth and nourished by both heritage and freedom.